From the Casey State Bank Digital First Studio at WTWO, this is the Goin to the Endzone podcast. Sponsored by Terre Haute Chevrolet, Indiana State University, and Kirshner Building Centers.
Welcome to the Goin to the Endzone podcast. Grant off this week. Nicole, I can't believe they left us in charge. We'll see how this one goes. And we have an interesting slate for week 10 here. Happy to have you with us this week.
Yeah, look at us, Omar.
Yeah.
You know what's pretty funny about this is you and I used to do the weekend together all the time. They left us in charge on the weekend too. Me doing news, you doing sports. So we made that work. I think we'll make this work as well.
Made it work. Yeah, how about that? And then we're happy to have you back this week for football too. You'll be going to Brebeuf Jesuit at Northview. Just kind of your early thoughts on heading there to see the Knights.
Well, I think it's going to be a good game. I know we talked about this last week when we had Coach Rates on, and he was talking about, when they saw that they had Brebeuf, they drew that. It is going to be a tough matchup for them. But I think they've got a lot of things going their way. Scoring 60 points in their last game, really impressive over Indian Creek. And I think that, against Indian Creek, that's right. And I think Kyle Cott's coming into his own. You're seeing him improve quite a bit as the season has gone on. And one thing I did want to note too is on Twitter, Amir, one of their players, he made a good point that, the O-line should get some love. You see all these plays with the running backs, the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, and they get all the attention, and they're the ones that the stats are kind of focused on. But, their O-line has really been stepping up as well. So I think when you look at this Northview team, especially after talking to Coach Rates last week, hearing what he had to say, I think they're ready for this. They aren't preparing for it in any way thinking, hey, we're going to have this really tough matchup. They're preparing for it in any way that they would any other game, and they're going out there just going to give it their best. And I think it'll be a good game. I'm excited to get to go out and shoot a game again. It's been a while, so good game to shoot.
It'll be fun to have you back. And for even more on that game, last week we had Mark Rates in here. That interview can be seen on our website, mywabashvalley.com. Get his thoughts. We asked him about the Brebeuf game. Another game that's interesting, kind of stands out. We mentioned Owen Valley having a great season so far, undefeated there. Kind of thoughts on Owen Valley going to Mount Vernon.
Yeah, so Owen Valley, I just see them going really deep into the postseason. They're undefeated and they've looked great. When I was doing some research earlier today, I think their lowest score of the season was 28 points in their loss to Northview in their defeat of Northview, but one of their toughest opponents they've played this year, Northview. And I think that the fact that 28 points is the least they've scored over 70 points, almost hit 70 last week. They're just a powerhouse. And we've talked about this week and week again, just how strong they are and how good the coaching is and how deep they are as a team. And I think that that's going to get them deep into the postseason. So I look to see them beat Mount Vernon this week and continue on with that lossless streak, their undefeated streak.
Keep it going there with Christian McDonald, great player for them.
Yeah.
How about Terre Haute North and South? Haven't forgot about them. They just don't play this week. They have a bye. Kind of nice to have a week off this late in the season.
Yeah, I know. Everybody loves a bye week. And as Coach Mallory will say at ISU, it's a bye week. It's not an off week. It's a bye week. So, you still got to bring it. And I know both teams, Terre Haute North struggled quite a bit this regular season. And I think Terre Haute South really, again, another team that's found its footing later in the season, had some good wins as of late. But I think that they're going to really appreciate the week off. And we look forward to catching them next week at the end of October.
You'll be at Northview. I'm going to Linton, South Vermillion. Just kind of your early thoughts on that one. Yeah,
well, Linton, another powerhouse team, and South Vermillion is also, both teams really, really strong this year. Linton, of course, earning that number one ranking early in the season and really not letting up on how impressive they've been. But South Vermillion, certainly nothing to, hang their heads on, getting Linton in the first week. I think it's going to be a great matchup. And, we're going to hear a lot more from Greg Barrett later in the show. You got to sit down with him. And I think that, what a great guy, what a great leader for that team, and a lot of highlights this season that they can take into the postseason.
Yeah, that should be an interesting matchup. Linton comes in ranked number 1, so it'll be a tall task for South Vermillion. But as you mentioned, Coach Barrett, kind enough to join us today.
Yes.
We'll hear from him coming up here in our second segment. And Nicole, we'll get back with you later here for our third segment. We'll kind of preview the college football weekend as Matt takes us to break. Stick around. South Vermillion head coach Greg Barrett joins us right after this. Hey, welcome back. Earlier had a chance to interview South Vermillion head coach Greg Barrett on this week's game against Linton. Coach, let me ask you too about, thanks so much for joining us today, but Linton this week, you guys coming off a great win against Attica. Lynn, we got to give Lynn Brands a shout out here, sends us the stats every week. We always appreciate it. Dalton Payton, four rushes, 123 yards. What a great game he had.
He really did, and that's really in one quarter. Not to take anything away from Attica, but they're definitely trying to build a program there and do things the right way. So we were definitely the much better team. We got a lot of young guys that got in that game and played 3 quarters. But back to Dalton, that kid is really, for the last 4 years, he's played a lot of football, whether it's special teams, on defense. But we always knew this kid could be a heck of a running back. And this year he has definitely done that. I mean, he has been outstanding. He is a very good football player. He's a hard runner. He's got excellent speed. So we're real happy where he's at this point.
We wanted to give a shout out. Dallas Coleman had 93 total yards. Man, you guys just racking it up against Attica.
And Dallas is a pretty good little athlete. He's only a sophomore. But he can return kicks, punts. He can play running back. He can play slot, wide out. He's a special kid and has a chance to be really good over the next couple of years. So we're excited. We're very excited about our sophomore class, for that matter. We got some good ones in there. And back to DP real quick. Dalton Payton, I think he's 41 yards shy of 1,000 yards. He's had 500 or 600-yard games and hasn't played a lot of football in some of these other games. Whether he didn't play the fourth quarter. So he's a special kid. And, hopefully, the beast that we're going against this Friday night, he'll be able to do some good things too.
Well, that segues perfectly in my next question. I was going to ask you about Coach Oliver and Linton. They've been ranked number 1 for, I think, over a month now. Kind of the challenges they pose on Friday night.
Well, I completely ranked them number 1 about every week. Those guys are the real deal. They've had such a great tradition-rich program there. Coach Oliver's done a great job. For years, they have been good. That town loves their sports. They are committed. Those kids work hard. They're tough. They're physical. You could just start naming kids left and right. They're all good in every position. They're well coached. They're physical. And obviously their quarterback, he's the real deal. He can run it. He can throw it. But he makes a lot of things happen with his feet. And if we don't come to tackle Friday night, we're going to be in for a long night.
You mentioned the tackling. When you go out to the locker room before you guys take the field, what will you tell the Wildcats? What's going to be, you think, some of the keys to winning the game?
Well, no turnovers, number 1. We've lost 2 games this year by 14 points total, and there's been 5 turnovers in those 2 games. We cannot do that because, in my opinion, our record should be even a little bit better than what we are. But, you give yourself an opportunity, take advantage of it. Don't create opportunities for your opponent. But I'll tell them the same thing I do every week. Number 1, play nasty and classy. And the nasty is the toughness, play physical, play hard, but play classy at the same time, play the game the right way. Just go out there and do what we do. And it comes down to tackling, blocking, catching the ball, throwing the ball. It's the same thing every coach says every Friday night. And, hopefully these guys, there's no doubt they're up for the challenge. They're not afraid to play anybody, and that's what I love about them. They go to work every day. They work hard. We have built South Vermillion into a football program, in my opinion, because of those guys that we have, because of those guys that buy into what we're doing.
For sure. It is a great program. We love coming up there and seeing the atmosphere in Clinton. For you, your dad, Jay Barrett, a great football coach, how much of an influence was he on you getting into coaching yourself?
Oh, huge. I'm doing what I do today because of him. There's no doubt. I grew up with it, always in the locker room, always running around, probably getting myself into trouble, but always seeing how the coaching is done, how they hang out as coaches afterwards, the camaraderie between the players, the coaches, the life lessons they're learning, which is, what I love the most and what I've got from him the most. A lot of guys that played for him would tell you he was just a big teddy bear. But just the discipline and doing things right. It's just in my family. It's blood. Having 3 brothers. We all played football. We all played it for my dad. We're all coaches. So it was definitely an influence of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's really awesome to hear. And then for you too, maybe not a lot of people might know this, but you played at Indiana State. kind of tell us some stories about how that kind of went for you there for the playing for the Sycamores.
Well, coming out of high school, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to go play football somewhere, but I've got 3 older brothers and my dad who all played football at ISU. My dad was a captain in the 50s. John and Chris and Kevin, we all played there. I mean, it kind of became a no-brainer. I was pretty much, destined to go to ISU and play football as well. Not that I didn't have some other opportunities, but, going there, looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened. I played for Coach Rates, Dennis Rates, and that experience that I got to partake in and the positions I got to play and just to learn the game, it just, it helped me be the coach that I am today.
Coach Mark Rates' dad there. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. I've known Mark for a long time, even when we were playing at State, and he'd always be at the stadium and right there by his dad or on the sidelines. And, yeah, it was a good place to play. And, I'm excited about, where they're going with Coach Mallory, to be honest with you. And I know things haven't gone the way they wanted to this year, but hopefully they'll get a big game Saturday, which is what I tell my kids. Go be a part of something. Go be part of a family. Go win a championship. Be part of being a role player. A team player. Those things are just, it's hard today.
Yeah.
I couldn't do college today.
Oh, man, it's tough, yeah. Especially then you factor in NIL into it, too.
Yeah.
And it's
that's even worse.
Holy cow,
yeah.
man.
It's insane.
I mean, it's almost like this is not college football that I kind of grew up with, man.
And I don't want to coach you when you're making twice as much money as I am.
Right. Exactly. That's the funny thing. It's like, I'm a USC fan.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
like,
I knew that.
We're going to the Big Ten. Yeah. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me at all, Because it's like, what happened to remember there was like geographical conferences that made sense. There was the Big East, the ACC, the SEC, Big 12, Pac. Now it's like, wait, there's going to be like the Big 10 and the SEC. There's like 2 conferences.
Yeah.
And sort of like everybody else.
Right.
Like Dabo says, the Roy bus.
Yes.
The rest of y'all.
The rest of y'all. That's right.
That's what I feel like that's what college football is becoming, man.
It's true. It's going to be like the NFL.
Yeah.
You're going to have 4 teams in divisions.
And I don't know if you're like me. I love the NFL, but I'm like, that's what we have with the NFL, man. It's like college is, Matt's a Purdue guy here, so it's like, I don't know. I'm always understanding that, change happens in sports and you have to like embrace the future and things. But I'm like, is this necessarily good or great for college football?
Yeah. I just remember when Penn State and Maryland went into the Big Ten.
Which was weird, right?
And I thought, well, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because Penn State to me was like Notre Dame, always an independent.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, so now Penn State, because the Big Ten, I think, has wanted Notre Dame to join.
Yeah, now this would be cool if Penn State and Notre Dame were those 2 teams that they put in the Big Ten. Years ago.
Yes, because USC and UCLA have been in the Pac-10 or Pac-12, whatever, for like over 100 years.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
And
so now I'm like, you do feel a little loyalty to the conference too. So I'm like, what's going to happen to the Pac-10 or Pac-12? Oh. It's going to like, practically like, they're talking about maybe adding other schools.
Yeah.
But.
It will be. They will actually. I think that's what's going to happen.
You think so? Yeah.
It's going to get.
But I'm just like. California, man. We don't play in cold weather. Yes. What's going to happen when we go to Penn State in November? Yes. It's like 20 degrees. Like, already we're in a series because you can't go anywhere in Southern California that's going to replicate that.
Right. No, you can't.
Whereas the Big Ten guys, they grow up with that kind of weather. So I'm like,
are you from California?
I kind of grew up there. My grandma lived in San Diego, the El Cajon area. Yeah. So that's kind of how it became a USC, Chargers, Lakers fan. I'm like, last night thinking like, thank God they won. I was like, oh my God, are we gonna lose to Denver in overtime? Yes. That's like all these thoughts were going through my head, Coach. I was like, come on, man. And then a special teams play. I don't know if you saw it.
I watched it.
Oh my God, I was like, really? That's how we're gonna win?
The kicker sucked it up. And
it was like literally. I almost was like, I feel like I've had dental appointments that are more entertaining than this game. It was so bad offense, Another thing I kind of want to talk about, this is a cause that's really close to your heart. Tell us about the PS We Love You Fund.
Yeah, I mean, so in September, we do the Tackle Childhood Cancer campaign, and I want to thank all those coaches that partaked in that this year for us. We've raised thousands of dollars. I don't know the total amount at this point in time. I think we had a couple games. Our last game was last week. But there was, 35 to 40 some schools involved. And, when COVID hit there for a couple of years, it kind of went down a little bit, obviously. But, it's picked up from like year one and 1 month. It was over $75,000. And the football coaches across the state, not necessarily just the Wabash Valley. In the IFCA, they promote this as well. So it's been a great event. And several schools around here all did it, and it's been outstanding. And, we want to thank, every coach, every parent who bought a T-shirt, any donation matters. And it's just been an awesome event.
Because as everybody knows, practically everyone has been touched by cancer. Either you or someone has been affected by it. So that's a really awesome thing that you guys are doing there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been outstanding. The people that it touches everybody's lives for sure. We know that. And but we deeply appreciate all those who take part of it.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And being in a community like Clinton that you mentioned kind of really cares about their football, what do you enjoy most about coaching there?
Well, for one, the kids, and the community that backs a program that traditionally has not been successful, and over the years, winning or losing, they're going to be at that game on Friday nights, and cheering on the boys. And it's been outstanding. And the support that we've had this is my 6th year. It's been outstanding, and to be honest with you, it couldn't be a better place at this point. And I'm really excited about how we've all bought in from youth football up. This year we won all 3 of our Super Bowls, which is a big deal in our youth program. We have over 100 kids in our youth program, and it's just been outstanding. I think the future is extremely bright, and we got a lot of really good things going on. That's
really cool. And you mentioned going to games and showing up. You're going to be at the ISU game on Saturday. What are your kind of early projections on the Sycamores in Illinois State?
Oh, man, the Sycamores over the Redbirds for sure. If you're a Sycamore, you don't like the Redbirds. There's no doubt.
Perfect homecoming opponent,
It's a
right?
great homecoming opponent. I think that place will be packed, and I think the Sycamores will take the bragging rights home.
That's really awesome, Coach. Last question I had for you is really open-ended for you. We always ask you all the questions, and we always appreciate the time that you have for us. I'd like to give you the microphone. Any questions you have for me today?
Well, for one, I want to thank you guys for what you do on Friday Night Lights and how you guys get to so many schools. What's the preparation for you guys when it comes to knowing, okay, I can hit a kickoff a quarter here, a quarter there. I mean, there's a lot of variables that take place, and talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we got Matt Kress here, our outstanding director. I'll kind of show the list here. This is kind of what it starts out with, a list like this, and then we kind of go through and say, like, okay, who can get to this game? If there's 2 games that are close together, like a lot of times like Sullivan, North Central, or maybe like West Vigo, Terre Haute South, or North Vermillion, South Vermillion. We hit that one a lot. So it's trying to like spread everybody out and see how many games we can kind of like get to, but it's always a challenge. As you mentioned, sometimes it's like a quarter at North Vermillion, get to South Vermillion as quickly as you can, So that it's a lot of preparation that kind of goes into it, but it's kind of fun when it all comes together on a Friday night.
So it's just like we tell our kids, everything's a process, and it comes down to preparation. And you guys got to prepare and plan to get to those spots. And no, I think it's great, and you do an awesome job with that. And I appreciate you guys having me on here today.
We appreciate your time coming down here for us. And it sounds like you might be perfectly transitioned into like TV in the future, since it's kind of a similar track,
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but
that is Coach Greg Barrett. We thank him so much for his time. Coach, good luck this Friday against Linton.
Thank you very much.
Coach Greg Barrett joining us today. Stick around. We'll be back for the 3rd segment of the Going to the Endzone podcast. Welcome back to the 3rd segment here of our Going to the Endzone podcast. Nicole back with us. And Nicole, I know you're excited. Indiana State this week, homecoming against Illinois State.
The rivalry
should be a fun atmosphere on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a great crowd there on Saturday, I think, Omar. And, looking back at the last 3 games that ISU has played, all 3 games ending in a loss, but that's not really what they want to focus on, because even though they have been losses, all have been within 1 possession. They've all been really impressive games, a lot of highlights to look at. And let's just look back at Youngstown State. I mean, you had Cade Chambers coming in 2nd career start, over 300 yards in the 300-yard club, and he's just really taken this team and showed that, a younger guy and a guy that doesn't have a ton of experience can still do a lot of impressive things. Another thing you really want to highlight, local kid, we've got Dakota Caton had his first touchdown, actually 2 of them, including a 53-yard reception for a touchdown, but his first touchdown since 2019. So we've talked about how his confidence is kind of coming back. You love to see that. We love to root for him, and I think that that's only going to show up even more at Memorial Stadium. What stuck out to you in the last couple of games for the Sycamores?
I'll be honest with you. I was thinking the same thing Sunday. I was just waiting for an email from Seth Montgomery saying that Cade Chambers was the player of the week because 300 yards, 5 total touchdowns, 3 of them rushing. It was kind of almost surprising that he was not the player of the week. Southern Illinois won that honor. But as you mentioned, him and Justin Dinka have just been rolling up the yards lately. They've been doing some good things, putting up a lot of yards. You mentioned the 2 weeks ago game against North Dakota State, no turnovers, no penalties. So trending in the right direction, you would just hope that, like, if there's like karma with the football gods, that maybe like this week, they kind of put it all together and you get Illinois State at home. They should have a great homecoming crowd. As Coach Barrett mentioned, he'll be there at the game. So you just kind of hope that they're able to put it together and get their second win of the season.
Right. And I think it's just the right chips have to fall. The defense going to probably be focusing quite a bit this week on just making sure that they can execute those third down conversions and making sure that they really are keeping the team solid and not letting too many points come from the Redbirds. But, it's rivalry week. It's homecoming. I think it's going to be a great matchup and win number 2 on the way, I think.
Should be so. Hopefully so. And then also around the same time across town, Rose Holman back here facing Franklin. Boy, have they turned things around. We were talking a while back. Hey, don't be surprised if they all of a sudden get back on the winning track. 0-3. Now they're 3-3.
I know we talk about a bye week being a good chance for a team to reset. That's what they're meant for, right? And they got their bye week and have come back really strong. And I think that, what was it? Last week was homecoming for them, or the last game they played was homecoming. So, it's always good to get that crowd, that alumni base to pump you up too. And that, just helps them sail into the rest of the season. Really, really happy for Coach Sokol and the turnaround that they've been able to have. You don't always see that. You can be very defeated with an 0-3 record and then, to be able to turn it around. Really impressed by them.
Really impressive coaching staff. We kind of knew they would do that. And also the busy weekend continues. St. Mary of the Woods returns back for Calumet College. They beat them in overtime week 1. So it should be interesting to see Coach Blaine Powell and the Pomeroy still undefeated.
Yeah, 4-0, looking at 5-0 on their first season. It's a testament to Blaine Powell and his coaching style and just how much these players and this coaching staff love working with him, and they really want to show out for him. Got to give a shout out. Kyle Vernelson got his first collegiate touchdown at last week's game after being injured for a little while, and so you're seeing him out there on the stat board again. You're seeing, a bunch of different guys, though, really, really helping this Pomeroy's team. And, we talked to Blaine in the very first episode of our podcast, and he was just talking about how many pieces he has on this offense and the defense as well, but just how many players he can really move around with on the offense to score. You're seeing that when you're looking at the stat books, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to pull off a 5-0 a record after this weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they continue to do. And I'm also really excited to see how their recruiting goes in the offseason too, because I think people are going to see this success. A lot of kids are going to see, hey, maybe I'm not able to play, at a D1 school, D2, and maybe I need to think about this sprint football. And they're going to be looking at Coach Powell and the Pomeroys as a great program to join.
For those not familiar, to sprint football, exactly like regular football, just 178-pound weight limit. So Nicole said it'll be fun to see what they do in the future. Last 2 things we got to get to, your Hoosiers. Back on the road this week at Rutgers University. Just your thoughts on Tom Allen and company.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about the magic wand wasn't going to be waved and all the issues weren't going to go away with Rod Carey joining after Darren Hiller was let go from the O-line spot. But, I was at the game against Maryland at home, and there was an unsportsmanlike conduct play that really, I think that call hurt IU's defense quite a bit. And I think also just, too many mistakes still happening, not enough I think there was a stat that I saw, something about like Maryland was able to get the ball their field goal returns or whatever were, or their kickoff returns were at like the 38-yard line. So, I mean, they were just getting started in a good position. We weren't able to do much even to start off, and then our defense wasn't able to hold them off enough, and then you make mistakes like that. So I think IU's in for just an interesting rest of the season. Still got some big games ahead. And I think that Maryland was a game they could have won, and they just they weren't able to pull it out. So I don't know what's in the future for Tom Allen, but he is the guy. We do love Tom Allen.
38-33 was the final there. Hopefully, you'll see if they get back on track this week. We got to give a shout out to Matt Kress, our outstanding director here today. Big Purdue fan. Purdue plays Wisconsin. Matt has given me insider information saying they play well against teams that wear red. Nice win over Nebraska last week, and they have Wisconsin this week. So the Boilermakers look to keep it going ever since Aiden O'Connell returned. They have looked good. So Matt, excited about the Boilermakers. Huge shout out to him. Thanks for his help today. Thanks to everybody for helping us out today for Matt and Nicole. And a big thanks to Coach Greg Barrett earlier joining us. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. And this has been the Going to the End Zone podcast.
Insert music.